The calls I never knew about. The first rejection didn't surprise me. Entry-level jobs reject people all the time. I had just finished school. My resume was decent but not extraordinary, and competition was high. So when the email arrived, "We regret to inform you," I shrugged and applied somewhere else. Your one click can keep these stories alive. Subscribe, because every voice deserves to be heard. Don't miss out on the journey. Subscribe, and let's grow, laugh, and learn together. Then it happened again, and again, and again. By the 10th rejection, something started to feel off. It wasn't just the no. It was how the interviews ended. They always started normally. Friendly handshake, basic questions, a quick look at my resume. But somewhere in the middle, the tone would shift. The interviewer's smile would tighten. Their eyes would change slightly, like they had just learned something unpleasant. Then the meeting would end faster than expected. "We'll be in touch." They never were. For months, I kept applying. Retail, office assistant, warehouse work, customer support, anything that could get me started. Every single time, the pattern repeated. At one interview, the manager looked at my resume for a long moment before asking a question that caught me completely off guard. "So, is there anything you'd like to explain before we continue?" I frowned. "Explain what?" He leaned back in his chair. "Your record." The word hit me like cold water. "My what?" He studied my face carefully, as if waiting for a confession. "Your criminal record," he said slowly. "We were told you had one." My brain stalled. I said. The man didn't look convinced. "Well, that's not what we heard." The interview ended 2 minutes later. I walked out confused, embarrassed, and strangely unsettled, because that wasn't the first time someone had hinted at something like that. But it was the first time someone said it directly. At first, I assumed it was a misunderstanding. Maybe someone with a similar name. Maybe a background check error. But weeks turned into months. And the same strange reaction followed me everywhere. Smiles that faded. Questions that didn't make sense. Interviews that ended abruptly. Eventually, curiosity turned into suspicion. So one afternoon after another rejection, I called a hiring manager who had seemed particularly reasonable during my interview. "I understand if you can't hire me," I told him, "but could you tell me honestly what went wrong?" There was a long pause on the phone. Then he sighed. "You seem like a decent kid," he said, "so I'll tell you." My stomach tightened. "After your interview," he continued, "someone called our office." "Who?" They said they were a concerned family member. A cold feeling spread through my chest. "What did they say?" Another pause. "They told us you had a criminal history and that we should run a deeper background check before hiring you." My voice came out quiet. "But I don't have one." "I know that now," the man replied. "We checked. My mind was spinning. Do you know who called?" He hesitated. "Yes." "Who?" The next words changed everything. "Your father." The phone nearly slipped out of my hand. For a moment I couldn't speak. My father had been calling employers behind my back, telling them I was a criminal. And suddenly every failed interview, every strange look, every rejection email finally made sense. But what I didn't know yet was that he hadn't been the only one making those calls. The pattern I couldn't ignore. For a long time after that phone call, I sat in my car staring at the steering wheel. "Your father." The words replayed in my head over and over. At first, I tried to convince myself there had to be some mistake. Maybe the hiring manager misunderstood. Maybe someone pretended to be him. But deep down, I already knew the truth. My father had never believed in quiet disapproval. When he didn't approve of something, he made sure the world knew it. Still, I needed proof. Over the next few weeks, I kept applying for jobs, but this time I paid closer attention. I started asking careful questions after interviews. Not directly, just small follow-ups. Was there anything concerning in my background check? Did someone contact you after my interview? Most companies avoided answering. Some simply repeated corporate phrases about competitive hiring decisions. But a few people were honest. One HR manager lowered her voice when I called. "Look," she said, "off the record, someone did contact us." My chest tightened. "What did they say?" "They said you had legal problems. Theft charges, I think. They warned us to verify everything carefully." The pattern was clear now. Someone was calling the companies shortly after my interviews and poisoning the conversation before any hiring decision could be made. And the timing was too precise to be random. One evening, I decided to test a theory. Instead of using my home address, I applied for a position using a friend's mailing address and a secondary phone number. I didn't tell anyone about the interview. Not my parents. Not my relatives. No one. The interview went well. The manager seemed impressed with my resume and said they would likely move forward quickly. For the first time in months, I felt a small spark of hope. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was the company. My stomach tightened as I answered. "Hi," the manager said. "I just wanted to clarify something before we finalize your hiring paperwork." "Here we go again." "Yes." I asked carefully. "We received a call this morning from someone claiming to be your mother." My heart dropped. "They told us you had a criminal record and were currently hiding it from employers." The room around me felt suddenly smaller. "So, you see why we need to investigate further." I closed my eyes, because now I knew 2 things for certain. First, my parents weren't just interfering once or twice. They were systematically sabotaging every opportunity one had. Second, they were doing it together. That night, I went home and sat quietly at the kitchen table while my parents watched television in the living room like nothing was wrong. My father laughed at something on the screen. My mother asked if anyone wanted tea, the same ordinary routine as every other night. But now every moment felt different because the people who were supposed to support me were secretly making sure I never succeeded. I didn't confront them. Not yet. Instead, I started gathering evidence. Emails, call logs, notes from hiring managers willing to confirm what had happened. Piece by piece, the picture became impossible to ignore. And the strangest part was this. My parents believed they were protecting something. Their reputation, their control, maybe even their version of my future. What they didn't realize was that by trying to keep me small, they had just given me the reason I needed to finally walk away. I didn't confront them with anger. I confronted them with truth. A few weeks later, I received an offer from a company that relied entirely on verified background checks, not phone rumors. When I signed the contract, I sent my parents one short message. "I know about the calls." No accusations. No argument. Just silence after that. Because the moment they tried to control my future, they lost their place in it. And the strange thing about lies is this. They only work until someone builds a life strong enough that no one believes them anymore.